All right, looks like we are streaming. Let me quickly check that if it is working or I'm just not speaking to anybody. Looks good. All right, looks good. Hey there, everyone. My name is Hitesh, and welcome to this live stream session. This is a little bit of an odd hour for streaming, but hey, whenever I get time, I would love to do stream, and I would love to introduce you to more people who are building crazy good product. A lot of the things are happening in the AI spaces, and recently with my Bangalore trip, I made a lot of good friends, and uh, they talked about what they are building, how they are building, a lot of work in the community, a lot of work in the open source, a lot of crazy good product in the AI spaces as well. So today we have a lot to discuss about one of the product that I've been using from the probably the day one of the launch or the week one of the launch pieces. I love their pricing model as well. It's absolutely free for any developer that they want to use, and they only charge to the corporate. So hey, that's a good stuff for us. And today we'll be joining with the stream. And let me introduce this like this that these people are pioneering the AI context. So that's there. So if you have any question related to Dart, related to building multi platform apps, related to AI, the context of the AI, as well as a whole lot of things, how to develop the product that good, and the team and the remote work as well, because both of the developers who are with me are actually remote developers, and they work remotely for the company, US based company. So they can tell you directly that what it's like to work remotely for an organization. A whole lot of things we can talk about this. So let me introduce them one by one. So first of all, we have Shivai with us. Hey Rutvik, where you are. You are here, still here.
Perfect.
All right, so how are you, man? How are you all?
Yes,
Doing good.
absolutely doing well. Yeah.
All right, so let me introduce you one by one. So, first of all, Shivai, and we met during the Bangalore conference for the first time in person. So, hey, Shivai, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a wonderful afternoon, and it's the perfect way to start the day by having this interaction with you, Hitesh. And super excited for the product hunt launch that we are about to kick off today. So thanks for inviting us over. So we're super stoked to be on your channel and just spread the word around how we are kind of leveraging the cutting edge tech that we are building ad pieces, and we're helping developers and non-developers alike with the latest forefront into AI context.
Absolutely. So, I'll be throwing up a lot of questions. And by the way, Karthik is asking, is this live or premiere? This is live, man. This is not premiere. This is live. Shivai, I'll be throwing up questions to you around remote jobs because you are doing one. You are about to travel to US as we discussed.
Yeah.
So working remotely, what are the challenges, advanced pros, cons, how to get started? So I'll be throwing up that to you quite a lot. And it's very hard to get you on a chair and sit on because you're traveling, man. How do you manage so much? This, I do travel, but you do it on a different scale, man. And on top of that, you manage your work from the hotel rooms. Oh man, I don't know how you do that. That's really nice of you. So
Okay.
moving on to Rutvik. Rutvik, you are a Flutter developer, and oh man, your work is really admirable. So much good, and you also work remotely, I guess.
Yeah, totally remotely. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so you enjoy your tea at your home while the paycheck from the US. Is that correct?
but yeah, I'm like yeah, that's a good part I would say. But I think remote gives also a lot of flexibility. Like you get to stay with the family, and also it's a new way of working. I mean, it hasn't been there before, so it's quite new for me as well. Like working with people based in the US, like managing work and life balance. But it's a quite fun.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But I think
And
the only thing one want to touch upon over here is that because of course with remote work, one of the downsides that people can face is that if you're not having regular syncs with your team, it might just feel that you're kind of alienated. But I think like it's really important that when you're working remotely, you can still manage to have conversations regularly and have regular checkups. I think like your company's culture really makes a huge difference there. So if you have a company where everyone is always super responsive and you're having regular checkups and syncs with the team, I think that makes it a lot more better, because otherwise you can feel a bit isolated because you're working remotely. So I feel like at least at pieces, that kind of culture that we have is all about collaboration. So even if you're working remotely from somewhere, it never feels that you're actually working remotely, because we're having multiple syncs throughout, and everyone is super accessible. So I think like that's a good hallmark of a good company, that when even if you have remote employees, if everyone is really passionate about building what they're building, and they really care about what you do. So I think like that's a huge thing. And it is like when I met you as well in Bangalore, I could just feel that how passionate you are towards the products that you're building, and of course about the entire community that you're running. So yeah, huge shout out to you as well.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I'll start with we'll come back on to what you are building and how you're building, how beginners can learn a lot from it. One more question I would like to fire up to Rutvik is, uh, is remote job, like, should remote job be the first job that people should be looking up for, or is it should be your second or third job? Because a lot of beginners, like I feel it myself, that once you are in the remote job, it's all you will be doing the stuff, you will be taking all the leads and everything. But as a beginner who is just getting started trying to learn, like, do you think a beginner will learn more while sitting at the home in the remote job, or while working alongside with a senior developer? And once you're comfortable with the development, what should be the next step? Like, what's your thought on this one? Rutvik, you go ahead.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So for me personally, I actually never worked in office. Like I always worked remotely, even when I was freelancing. And my first job is at actually at pieces, so at freelancing. So it's remote. So it's a quite challenging narrative. I'm like as when you're working remote, you have like some of the additional responsibilities. Like there is trust between you and the people you're working with, right? Like when you are in person, you go to office, people see you, you work with them, there's set time. But at remote, like the most important thing is the trust between you and the people you're working with, because there is no specific time when you will be working. You just know what things you have to get done, and it's up to you, it's your responsibility to get those things done in a timely manner that's perfect for you. But in case of like for developers who are new, like for someone who is just starting or got their first job, I would say if there is opportunity to for them to work remotely, why not try that? I mean, it can be a really good job and a balanced place for you. Like you get a lot of you save a lot of time that you would either spend in traveling, in office, in other things. But remotely you get the flexibility of take care of yourself a bit more properly. But there's additional responsibility that you need to be considerate of. But that's definitely one thing that you do miss the feeling of like connecting with the colleagues, like collaborating, which is really essential for new developers when they are newly hired on the team. They need to get understanding of the whole company, how things are work. In such cases, I think like sync a regular sync ups with the team is really helpful. They can get you up to speed and help you connect a lot more. And if there's chance for you to like meet the team in person, then definitely you should. But as a beginner, it depends on a lot of cases. I mean, for me, my first opportunity was remote, so I picked it. But if you are considering between those two, it would depend. I'm like on a lot of your scenarios. But if it's remote, you should go for it. I mean,
All right. So that thanks for the input, Ritvik. I hope that will help a lot of new developers to think from the mindset perspective. And of course, the major thing is responsibility. The keyword here is the responsibility. In the office, you can ask for help. In the remote job, you are responsible for finishing up the job, finishing up the task. It's up to you how you do it, how you learn it, how you get the help. It's up to all you. But in the office, it's a lot of help is just a one shout away. So hey, I'm stuck in this, or can you help me in that? So if you are comfortable in finishing up the projects and the work on your own, I think, yeah, go for the remote. Why not? And if you think that, no, I need to have a little bit of a more learning curve, prefer office. But again, if you get the opportunity, whatever that is, pick that up. So coming to Shivai, Shivai, you have been pieces for quite some good time now, and you also work as a DevRel. and you truly understand the concept of the DevRel, it's not just about marketing for the product itself. It's all about getting engaged with the code part, understanding the product life cycle, the use case of it, and even understand a whole lot of code part of it. So a lot of people think that DevRel is I'll stay away from the code. It is not like that. It means you will have much of a broader perspective and understandability of the code. What's your thought on this? You go ahead and take this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you very rightly mentioned, it is that there are multiple hats that, as a devil, you have to wear throughout your day. So, for me, if I just talk about how my day looks like, so it's being very active on our Discord, because on Discord, a lot of people might have questions related to certain features uh, of pieces. So, being aware of all of those features that we have in the product and understanding them not just on a high level but also on a deep technical level, because the kind of questions that you might receive during your support or on GitHub or on Discord might be related to the tech behind that's powering pieces, or perhaps it might be related to how do you actually implement a certain feature in pieces. So being able to answer those kind of questions, but also being able to support the users who are probably facing some issues and being able to resolve their issue. And for example, if they have certain feedback about the product on how it could be improved, being able to relay that feedback to your product team and helping thus improve the entire product life cycle, which is sharing that feedback from the community, from the users, and then helping update that. And then, of course, being the voice for the product as well to the developer communities, always thinking of how do you actually just not just announce that, hey, we have launched this feature, but thinking from the perspective of the end user, that how will that user actually benefit from the feature. So it's not just blindly talking about a feature, it's also connecting the dots. That, for example, if for example, in this stream we believe that there'll be a lot of students. So how is pieces actually relevant for students, whether it's as part of their research, or if they are solving some assignments, if they are taking lecture notes, how pieces can actually help in all of those different kind of use cases. So being able to be empathetic with the audience and the developer mind persona that you're dealing with, so being mindful of those. And most importantly, like as you mentioned, having a very strong technical foothold as well. For example, for me, most of the time that I do at pieces, like in terms of coding, is working with our open source SDKs that we support in TypeScript and Python and Dart, and building a lot of like sample apps, building example of apps on how like it might be useful for developers. So for example, there's this Hashnode AI hackathon. So I built like a sample app to showcase to people how do you actually use pieces SDK to build like a haiku based on certain image that you might have. So being able to build those kind of applications, supporting the SDKs, also working very closely in our docs as well. So I think like as a developer advocate or in developer relations, you have to wear all those hats, and you have to be very seamlessly have to switch between the different contexts, right? Similar to how pieces helps you. And so I think like it's just important to understand that at the end, what matters is what your users like or dislike about your product, and then how you're able to make the product better while always thinking about the end user. So as a dev tool especially, that's something that you have to be very careful, and that's what we just try to do. That is why like whatever feedback that we receive as devils in the community, like we are always actively ensuring that all of those are always incorporated into the product as soon as possible.
All right, man.
Yeah.
So, coming on to Rutvik now. Now let's start some of the developer talks, and then we'll go and talk about the AI part of it. First of all, development. Rutvik, you go ahead. What all you worked on? I am aware that you worked on the extension part of it, web extension especially. But how is it like? What it takes to build extensions, and especially in the Dart language, because a lot of people think, hey, it's just a JavaScript basis, but injecting Dart in it and Flutter, what's the role? How do you see it? I want to know all about it, man. How is it looks like in your day-to-day life, how you build that? I want to know all from you.
Totally, yeah. I mean, like that's the sweet part of like building web extension. So, like a lot of the time, people think of like extension as the mainly something that can be built with JavaScript, as it is web based, but they don't realize that the Dart is actually a really great language, and it has some of really nice features like Dart interoperability, that can help you connect your Dart code with a JavaScript code and communicate between the two. That helps make possible some of the extension functionality right now. So currently, so the UI part of the extension that you see in the side panel, that is Flutter code. But there are functions like the embed buttons, right, that we show around the snippets on sites, or the context menu actions. Now, those might feel like the JavaScript part, but we have like Dart and JavaScript playing there both together. So we use the Dart interop. So it is one of the Dart features that allows us to communicate with the JavaScript back and forth, as well as communicate with certain JS function that may not have we may not have access to them in the Dart. So that really helps in sometimes scripting when you're trying to embed stuff. Like Flutter provides an HTML library, so you can directly affect the site DOM through the Dart code. So which is really good. I don't have to deal with JavaScript or CSS when I want to embed those buttons, style them. It can all be done through the Dart code through the HTML library that Flutter provides. So that is really powerful. It speeds up development so much. And for things when I want to react to certain browser events or browser actions, at that time I have certain background JavaScript scripts that we have that run in the background, and on the events they communicate with certain Dart files. So there's this one thing. There's one feature of Dart interrupt. So you can have separate Dart scripts that can be compiled to JavaScript scripts, and that which you can use on the web. So in such cases, sometimes I don't have to write JavaScript code. I could just write Dart code, make it interoperable with the JavaScript, compile it to a JavaScript script through the Dart compiler, and there you go. You have fully functioning a Dart code which is compiled to the JS code that can work on web. So this
That's
feature of
crazy,
Dart.
man. That's crazy powerful that you can stay in your language comfort and the compiler can export the code to the JavaScript. That's like dream come true. Like I don't have to learn. Like every time I say this out loud that you should be comfortable in wherever you are working. If you are able to just do all the things in your favorite language, there is no need to switch on other language. If you're comfortable in Dart, stay in that. Try to figure out if you can do all things with that language. Now the ecosystem is so much rich that you don't need to switch language just for doing one task. The interoperability is growing like anything.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think that's a really strong feature of Dart, and how Flutter and Dart are empowering a new way to build a web application or websites, and it's really accessible for everyone. And Dart really helps in that, especially the interop feature, and the new upcoming WASM built in Flutter are gonna take that to the next level.
Awesome, man. Coming back to Shivai, that was awesome, Ritvik. Knowing about so much of the new tech, I'm pretty sure those who are watching and will be watching will now explore this part of the language that you can do all of the things that you wanted to do in the browser through the Dart itself. So, in case you are already a Flutter developer, a Dart developer, you don't need to just mingle up the two languages. You can try that out. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
really nice.
I just wanted to bring one point forward. Not all of the it's not like that we don't have to write JS code. I mean, for some parts we do have to write JS code. Like there's this background service worker within the extension. So there's it is a JavaScript script. It is mostly responsible for interacting with certain events, and then those events action are handled by Dart script. So but yeah, for majority of part, that really makes it possible to build web extension much easier.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Now coming to Shivai. Shivai, we'll be discussing a little bit of the AI because I am a big fan of on-device AI. Of course, I don't mind having the AI in the cloud, but I've seen enough of my friends getting panicked about where the source code will be used. The moment you move into large corporations, they don't want to use ChatGPT or uh, because code is their IP, it's their intellectual property. They don't want this code to be utilized for training other people's data. That is the reason why they use a paid version of Stack Overflow and all of this so that they can get their copy and have their internal setup. So if you want the questions to be answered, you use a paid Stack Overflow. So yeah, a lot of people don't know, but yeah, that also is how Stack Overflow makes money. So you guys are building majority of the stuff as an on-device AI, but you provide the option that if you want to use as a Chat GPT or Gemini, just one click can do it. So can you explain more? And then later on, we'll come on to the context part of it. So first of all, vision behind having an on-device AI, how you're doing it, and what it takes, and how especially a beginner can get started from a learning perspective, that I want to learn how to build these on-device AI, some resources, something that you can share.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think like I can first touch upon why the vision behind pieces was always to focus on an air-gapped environment and an on-device AI. So I feel that when it comes to doing any sort of AI processing, one example like I like to quote is from one recent example that also got to know was with the Samsung example. So I think some people at Samsung, they were leveraging ChatGPT, and for some reason they uploaded their code to ChatGPT, and then some other user was able to actually extract some of that code from that private proprietary code that was there in Samsung, and they got access to that particular code. So as you can see that there's always that risk that you mentioned, Itish, around whatever code is being used. Of course, sometimes the OpenAI folks might say that they're just using it for their internal training of improving the GPT-4 or GPT-3 models, but there's always a risk of it getting leaked, or sometimes it's just randomly surfacing up, right? Because so many people are using. So I think when it comes to AI, on-device security is the most important, especially for a lot of large-scale enterprises who are working on a lot of cutting-edge development, and they might not want to share their code anywhere outside. So that is why everything that happens when it comes to, at least from the processing of the background services, all of the local models that run within the pieces OS, those are all powered by local models. So we have, the way that the architecture kind of works is that you have this pieces OS as a standalone service that runs in your background in your computer, and there are a bunch of several small embedded AI models that will do things such as detecting what is the code in your, like if you have a code snippet and you save it to pieces, what is the language of that particular code snippet, who are the related people whom you could perhaps interact with, what are some of the associated links, what could be some of the relevant links online that might be related to this particular code snippet. And then also when it comes to like the pieces copilot, whenever you are interacting with pieces copilot, you add any files into pieces copilot as context. So being able to then vectorize all of that particular code that you just saved, and then being able to use like a RAG, so retrieval augmented generation, to find relevant details about the context that you have set. So all of those happen completely locally. And again, as I mentioned, the major focus is on to protect and to have that privacy, so that even if you don't have access to internet and you are working in a professional setting where you want to save everything on device and you don't want to send anything to the cloud, it can be managed directly on device. So that has always been the major focus, and that is why we have this huge focus on being able to use local models. So in fact, like as part of today's product hunt launch, we are releasing 8 different kinds of new local large language models that you can use, right from Llama 3 to Gemma models to Granite models from IBM. We also had like previously Llama 2 and 5 models from Microsoft. So depending on whatever model is your preference, you can just choose that particular model, completely turn off your internet, and every single process that will happen, whether it's using the live context feature or like you're working in your code base and you have some doubt from the copilot, or you are facing a bug and you want to ask that how should I solve this bug or resolve this bug, all of that can happen completely offline. So I think like that's the power. And to answer your second question around how can students, or like let's say someone who wants to get started with on device AI, so of course one prerequisite that you must be aware of is that you do need like good power. So of course, like all these large language models, they require a lot of GPU and CPU compute. So and but what happens, like if you don't have enough GPU, you can always use a smaller model. So typically all of these large language models come in different flavors. That's basically how much big of a context length they might have. So some of them will have like a 2 billion parameters, some of them will have a 8 billion parameter model. So of course the larger models will typically require you to have more GPU compute, but if you don't have that, you can also have smaller models that can run on CPU. So typically you just have to download that particular model locally. Now there are some open source tools like Olama that allow you to interface with these local large language models directly. But of course, why Pieces kind of stands out is that it packages it in a way that you don't have to actually, like, let's say, build your own version of like a GitHub Copilot. Like Pieces Copilot allows you to just directly download any local model that you might want to use, and then you can interface that inside of your IDE, inside of the web extension, and that way you can leverage those. So yeah, but typically if you want to just get started as a developer building with local large language models, most of these are found on Hugging Face, so you can just directly download them from Hugging Face and start to implement them. So in fact, like, there are a lot of different technologies like LangChain. That's a really powerful technology that basically interfaces with any large language model, and you can very easily like write prompts. So in fact, like, we also leverage LangChain internally for being able to have that communication with these LLMs, because ultimately, like, the way that you interact with these LLMs is via giving them prompts. Now it could be a very simple prompt as help me fix this, like, what is the weather today, or how do you implement like WebSocket in Python. But it could be a much more advanced retrieval augmented generation based prompt, where now you're not just asking a single question to the Copilot, but you're also asking it questions based on the previous responses that it has given, and also based on, like, if you have given it some files and folders as context. So you can handle like multiple types of these streams, or these chains that you can create with LangChain. So that's a great open source technology that you can use to basically build and interface with these models.
Got it, man. Thanks for the great overview about. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have picked up a lot of great words to research more further on it and look forward for this. Now, coming on to the launch. So, you have a launch today. I think it is already up now on the
Yeah.
product hunt. It should be.
Yes,
So,
it's live now.
a lot of people don't know when you are building something, it's a good idea to have it on the product launch. If you're confident about your product, it doesn't needs to be a paid product or any product. If you're building anything, make sure it's usable by some of the people who can come and use your software. And having that on the product launch is always a great idea. Shiva, would you like to show us, share the screen and the launch, the features of it, and can you give me the link as well so that I can share it with the people so that they can also share some support?
Yes, absolutely. And I've just shared the link, but I'll be more than happy to quickly share my screen as well, Hitesh. So this me 1 second. Let me bring up my screen. And
Sure.
yeah, we are super excited to go ahead with this product hunt launch, because as you mentioned that product, if you are a developer, if you are a builder, product hunt is a great way to launch your product, because everyone on product hunt basically cares for the stuff that people are building. So we are super excited to do our third product hunt launch, and yeah, so I just went live, and we'd love to have the support of the community. Like, if you like the product, definitely please go and vote if you feel valued, and please do use Pieces that way. But let me go ahead and share my screen as well.
Sure. Let me go ahead and send it on to the chat as well so that people can actually see it. And somehow I'm not able to send it in the chat.
Oh, in on YouTube, you mean? Or
Yeah.
oh, that's a bit strange. I
Like
guess
it
someone
said I
who
go.
might be the moderator might be able to share.
I am the admin.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, of course.
But again, I tried it. It's giving the error. But anyways, we can just get your screen. So can you share the screen? I think
Yeah, it should
currently
be
you are
shared.
sharing. It is shared, but currently you are on. Yeah, now you are on this. Because
Yep,
if I'll share at that point, it will just keep on infinite mirroring. So that's
infinite. Yeah,
the problem.
yeah. Yeah. So basically, I'll just quickly also introduce what we are launching today. So you're launching the live context feature.
First
So
of all, before going up there, this is one place which is less heard by the people, and I highly recommend people to actually use Product Hunt. Not because we are sponsored by Product Hunt or something. I think it's a
yeah.
good place for developers to showcase your product, because this is a launch platform. And all you got to do on this platform is it's absolutely free. You don't need anything to pay them for the launch or anything like that. You can just create an account, write the details about your software, have what's the launch, what you have built, what's the screenshot, and you can just ask people that, hey, what do you think about my product? And I think as a beginner, whenever you're thinking, should I build this project or not, just ask yourself whether it's worth launching on the product hunt or not. If it is just launching on worth launching on the product hunt, that means it needs to go on your resume as well. And
Mhm.
in imagine in the resume you're writing this, that, hey, I did a product and I launched that on the product hunt as well, and I got few good votes. I got few good users on it. I think, hey, this is one of the things which people now needs to go with this. So go ahead, Shivai.
No, I think Hitesh, as you very rightly mentioned, that anyone who is a curious builder and wants to showcase his or her or their product to the public, to the wider audience, Product Hunts is a great way to launch, because I had been spending a lot of time recently on just interacting with other folks who are building a lot of exciting stuff on Product Hunt, and I was completely blown away by the kind of intelligence on how they're actually thinking about users, because ultimately, like, every product that's launched on Product Hunt is meant for developers or for people, like, so the kind of problems that people are solving with their individual products is great. So if you just want to be aware of some of the cutting edge way in which people are using AI, it's a great way to explore, and it's a good, really good community. But yeah, so super excited to talk more about the Pieces Copilot Plus. So in a nutshell, what the Pieces Copilot Plus does is that, so in a normal workflow, let's say if you're using Pieces Copilot inside of your VS Code extension, so you can set the context of, like, let's say your local repository of the code that you're working with, and it will be able to answer any question very easily about what's happening in your local ID. But as a developer, you're not just limited your entire day's focus on ID, right? You start your day by going through some documentation. If you're implementing a new project, you would look at the documentation on Chrome, on any doc site. Like, let's say you're learning how to code in React, so you'll learn about React docs, and then you would go back to your ID, and then, like, let's say, create your first component. You'll write your first component in JSX. But let's say you've now faced an issue into that, so you might go and speak with your colleagues on Google Chat or on Slack, and then they might give you certain inputs into how you can solve that. So as a developer, you're not just focusing on one use case, right? Your mind basically spreads across from research to implementation to solving tickets or resolving tickets on Jira, right? Or
Right. It
perhaps
comes
you're
from all direction. It comes from all direction with probably like 100 tabs on my Chrome to
yeah.
my Slack messages to God knows what. It comes from all direction and all places.
Yes. And so what we realized was that there is not really this single tool that can basically put up context of all of those pieces. Like, yes, there are great tools that will only work great with your local code base. But of course, when it comes to defining such a complex workflow where you are kind of having some research background as well, you are speaking with your colleagues, you are perhaps reviewing PRs on GitHub, and all of those are interrelated to the code that you're writing. So there is not a single tool that could basically have context of everything that you're doing. But with the live context feature and the Copilot Plus, your what we are able to capture is are the most important aspects of your workflow. So if you're, like, let's say right now reviewing a PR on GitHub, it will be able to add that to the context, and then now you are, like, let's say looking at the code as well inside of your VS Code, and that's actually interlinked with some research that you did. So it will add all of those different things to the context. It will allow you to understand your workflow, what you were working, when you were working. And now, like, when you give a prompt to the Copilot Plus that, let's say, based on this particular GitHub issue that was there, or this particular pull request, can you summarize that for me, and how can I perhaps implement that into my code that I'm writing into the VS Code? right? And it will be context aware of that discussion that was happening on the pull request that is related to your code in the VS code, and it will be aware of both the things, like the local code and your VS code. And then, for example, it could be a more complex discussion around that. Let's say I'm working with Ratvik, I'm learning Flutter, and I'm writing some Flutter code. And this is like a perfect example, so I can quickly show you as well. So, for example, I was writing this particular Flutter code over here on this is an example of a Flutter code that I'm writing, which is basically a counter app. If I go ahead and run this, for instance, like right now, this is a simple counter app, right? So here, like right now, I'll just wait for it to compile. Now, as soon as it compiles, like when I click on the increment button, it is actually not incrementing. So, for example, now I'll go and I'll speak with Ratvik on Google Chat over here, and I will ask him that, hey, hi Ratvik, like I'm building this sample counter app. Can you please let me know that I'm not able to actually increment the counter? So Ratvik told me that, hey, you seem to have forgotten to call the set state function when you increment the counter. Now, as someone who is not very comfortable with Flutter, I'm not 100% sure on how to actually do that, because I'm not very comfortable with the Flutter code. So what I'll just do is I will ask the co-pilot over here that, hey, based on the Flutter code that I'm writing for counter, uh, can you suggest, based on the suggestion based on the suggestion.
Shiva, looks like you have like a previous chat that already has that answer. You might
Yes,
like
yes,
try
yes.
opening a new
So
chat and demonstrate that.
probably a new chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
So I
Yeah.
can ask it, and over here what I can do is that this is like the way that you'll implement it, that you have to turn on the live context feature. And basically the way that it does this is that we have something called as the workflow pattern engine. So essentially what is happening behind the scenes is that we are capturing screenshots of the most important workflow that you're doing from time to time. So whenever you are, like, let's say, changing some work, you're right now in the ID, so it will take a screenshot of your ID, and then you switch over to the Google chat, it will take a screenshot of that, and then it will be able to relate on how is your ID code related to the chat that you're taking place in the Google chat. So for example, now if I turn it on, I can ask it a question based on the.
I guess it's off yet. The live context is
Oh
off.
yeah, the live context is on. Perfect. All right. So based on the code that I am writing in Flutter um, for incrementing counter, can you implement the suggestion given by Ratvik on Google Chat? So now, hopefully, if it works well, it should be able to actually be aware of that code that is writing in the Flutter app, but also then implement the suggestion given by Ratvik, which is around setting a state. So I'm not completely aware of how do we do that. So here it has given me this code, and it has basically added that you have to add the set state method. So it has actually gone ahead and done that. So I could simply go ahead and copy this piece of code and try to implement it. So let's like do this live implementation. So it says that you just have to essentially wrap your counter variable inside of the set state function. So let's, oh, I think it didn't copy that. So let's go ahead and copy this again. So it basically mentioned to uh, just wrap around this counter variable in the set state function. So now if we go ahead and run this, hopefully, it should gives that response. And let's see if that works. So as you can see, right, that works pretty well. So as you saw, that the live context feature was aware of what you were doing in your ID, and then it is also aware of the chat that I had. And another example could be that, for example, I'm looking at this particular GitHub
The
issue.
best part I liked about it, it didn't wandered around. It didn't give
Exactly.
me thousand different suggestions. It know
Yeah.
exactly what direction to take based on the chat, and it doesn't give me thousand options. Hey, based on the chat, if you want to go in that direction, that's your context. I'll show you exactly that.
Exactly. And so that is the biggest benefit, that you reduce the amount of context switching that you have to actually do, and remove the need to search around your desktop or around the browser for just to find a piece of information. So,
Basically,
and as you
reduce
saw,
down my research time.
exactly. And you also basically reduce the amount of time that it actually needs to add context to your copilot, because now of course you can still use pieces copilot by adding some kind of manual context. You can add files and folders if you're like working on a local directory, but right now you saw that I am in my IDE, and I'm actually able to very easily just leverage it without even adding context manually. So it basically enables you to have very natural and intuitive conversations with the pieces copilot, allowing it to be your true assistant, and that understands whatever you're basically working on. So, another use case like Hitesh that I can quickly touch upon is, for instance, like let's say if I'm reviewing this PR, right? If I'm reviewing this particular PR around the abstract local usage. Now, just to kind of give context, this is like implementing a local storage method inside of this TypeScript example. And by the way, like, this particular TypeScript example project is built using our TypeScript SDK. So, if someone is like interested on building their own AI application, we have these SDKs available that you can leverage, that and build AI based projects. So, for instance, like let's say I'm reviewing this particular PR as an open source developer, as an open source maintainer, and I have been, of course, requested review for this particular code. So I could just ask the copilot that, can you summarize this particular GitHub pull request for me? So, like let's say. Again we can try this out in a new chat. I will go ahead and implement the live context feature. I can ask it, can you summarize the pull request around. So I can ask it like the pull request around, I guess it's the abstract local storage usage. So the the around the abstract local storage usage. So again, it will be aware of the pull request and the content of the pull request that is there inside of the context. So hopefully, like it will be able to summarize them, and you can ask it follow-up questions as well. So this will, like, again, if you have like multiple pull requests that you're dealing with, you see that it gives you an entire summary of what all changes have been made. Perhaps now you could use this information inside of your code, and it will be able to also then answer that particular use case for you. So there are multiple ways in which students can use it, in which if you're building a live project, you're going through documentation. For example, like just one example that I wanted to kind of quickly touch upon was, I was trying to actually install like Flutter on my device, and I didn't want to necessarily like now go through the entire documentation again and again. So I just asked like pieces copilot that, hey, can you share what are the steps mentioned on the Flutter site to actually download Flutter just for macOS, and it gave me just a very clean summary of the exact steps, because like sometimes on the documentation site there might be more gibberish or some things that might just take away your time from implementing something. So it just gave me a very straight to the point steps involved with installing Flutter. So this way, like I was
There's a,
going through
there's
the
a there's a really nice question exactly, I think, which we need to answer.
yeah.
It's a good feature. It's Beast says the username is it's Beast.
Hmm.
It says it's a good feature, but it's taking snapshot of my workspace. What about privacy? That is exactly where your local model comes up. So everything that you do in the pieces, you can just turn off all the Chat GPT and all the Gemini. They are shipping their own local models that never leaves your system. So all the data that you're going through will always be in your system itself. And that is why lots of corporates are having a tie-up with the pieces, and because everybody wants to inject AI in their workplace with their developers, but they're not sure. So that is exactly where pieces comes in. That is why they are having deals with these corporates that, hey, this is all on the system, this is all on device. So I hope that answers your question. Every
Yeah.
information in the pieces can be stored on locally, but if you are comfortable, hey, I want to throw away my information to all the places, you can do that also. But the majority, the piece which is there in the pieces is all about having it all locally. So I hope I answered it correctly, Ritvik. If there is anything that I missed, you can add it.
Yeah, I mean, like that was point on Hitesh. I mean, like having the accessibility to like local models. that definitely gives you an option to like run everything air gap, nothing leaves your machine. But beside that, I also wanted to add on some specific measures that we take to like maintain users privacy. Like, so I could share my screen to show you some of that.
Sure, sure.
And just to kind of touch upon that one aspect, Hitesh, that you touched upon. So as you can see right now, I'm leveraging the live context feature with Llama 3. So we have a huge selection of local models that are getting released with this product hunt launch. So we have the Mistral 7 billion parameter model. We have the Llama 3. We have all of the Gemma models from Google. We have the IBM Granite models as well. So the way that the live context feature works is that all of those screenshots that are being taken, they are taken locally. And if there is any sort of information that is either API keys or some secrets that you might have, it is automatically masked from the Copilot context. So those pieces of information will never actually even be stored inside of the context. So we go, one step further. Of course, everything is locally only stored. Nothing is going to the cloud from the screenshots that are taken. And even the most important, privacy focused information is all masked away. So that is never actually even sent to the prompt itself. So just to
All
kind of
right.
touch
So,
upon that part.
all right. So, Ritvik, can I share your screen now?
Yep.
Oops. I'll add this.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm like as Shiva mentioned, like so when you're like as the users are concerned about like, hey, it's taking screenshots of my every screen, like what about privacy? So I wanted to say that we actually don't take screenshot of your entire screen. Like in some cases, we only take like bits of information from what is present on the scene, and most of the time, like I could actually demonstrate you that. Like some of the information that gets captured locally, I could show, give you an insight into what is that is being captured and how we work with it. So just give me a second. So, there is a debug folder. I'm just trying to find that. Where is that folder? Hmm. Yep, here you go. It was at the top. So we have like a vector database that lives on your device where we store all the information of the chats and the screenshots. Now, as you can see, let me just like, so these are the screenshots that are being captured. But if I try to like open some of those, right, you can see that we are not capturing your entire screen. We only capture bits of information that we think are relevant and that we might use. Like if I go to the another one, and like this.
And these are
So,
all always on your device. It doesn't
right,
leak
it's
that.
always on your device, and we only capture bits of information from the screen, not the entire screen. So that's one of the important steps that we take to like maintain users' privacy. And along with that, like this data that we capture is sometimes like it is deleted immediately if we recognize as we don't need it. uh, but we do, then after 12 hours we immediately delete any entire captured data. So that also helps you maintain like your data is no longer like any risk of getting hacked. But beside that, along with capturing these bits of information, when you are using a cloud model, right? So you are worried that this information may be sent to the cloud model, but we don't directly send this information that you see in the screenshot. We mostly like try to like compress it first, then summarize this, and only send the information to this model that we think is necessary for it to like ask that relevant question, right? So not all of the information is sent to the model, only bits of it that it may need to like help you provide an appropriate response to your question.
Awesome, man. This was so lovely to see that we can actually directly see that. But now, here's an important task. All those people who are watching it, there is a link in the pinned comment. That's the product hunt link. And I think it's our duty to support the products which are absolutely free for developers and are increasing the developer productivity to support them out. So go on to the link. I'll be checking how many of you are actually posting a comment or giving them an upvote. I'll be also doing that. So, first of all, now it's time that you go ahead and do that. I'll be asking all the people in the Discord and my WhatsApp group as well. So, go ahead and show them some love. They really need it. And we should be coming forward to support the community. It's all about the community, man. Without community, we are nothing. The developer is one such community where you can learn the things for free, you can have tools for free, you can have hosting for free, you can have machine learning for free, everything for free, just because it's a whole game of the community. So I highly recommend all of you to support the community. Go on to this product hunt launch page, write them some comments, give them some feedback about, hey, we enjoy loving your product, best of luck, great launch, something like that. I will also be going up there, and I'll be also watching that how many of you are going up there. The whole idea is community, man. The reason why the developer ecosystem is thriving on the top, like no other ecosystem has this much of free resources. You talk about medical, you talk about sports, you talk about anything, just because the community, the more community is going to be there, the better an ecosystem becomes. Like, where do you find that you can learn everything for free, you can host everything for free, you can have free IDEs, you can have free everything, literally freeze once you buy the machine, everything is free. So yeah, that's all I'm saying is, when such thing comes up, it's our duty to support them, help them out. So link is in the comment section. I'll be throwing that link on the Discord as well. Go ahead, help them out, support them out. And I guess that's all what we'll be discussing about. But before we close it down, just two lines from each one of you. We'll start with Shivai. Something about being a DevRel, traveling around the world, and a beginner advice. Just summarizing it very shortly in just two lines. What would you say, Shivai?
Sure. So being a DevRel, as I mentioned earlier, that you have to wear multiple hats. So this being able to very effectively utilize your time. So having very dedicated time for when you're doing some programming, when you're interacting with the community, when you're implementing the docs and all. So just be very careful with how you divide your time and the way that you divide your tasks, because like it's all about time management. And of course, like if you are traveling as a devrel, the way that I always effectively manage my time is I will spare some time when I'm on the flight to do some work, and then of course like always have adequate sleep as well. And like especially when you're traveling for conferences, just try to maximize your time by networking with the right kind of folks, and then capturing whatever information you are, if you are attending a session. Yeah, so I mean pretty much that's what I always try to do, is have effective networking. Like whenever you're approaching someone, always have something like concrete whenever you're trying to share something with them. So that's always very important, because sometimes it can happen that you get carried away with when you have not thought about something very properly. So always have that clear mindset and clear goals whenever you are doing anything, right? That applies to everything in work, and especially for DevRels, it's very important, like to have clear goals set for you, so that you can then very easily do that context setting.
All right, thanks, man. And another advice from Ritvik. What about remote jobs? How a beginner can approach it? How can he get first job as a remote job? And all the details that you can give precisely about getting the first remote job. Just summarize it in two lines. Ritvik, you go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, in two lines it might be difficult, but I'll try. So yeah, I was like getting a remote job. I think for me, like how it worked was like I was mostly very active in the Flutter Dart community over Twitter, and I used to share my work there. That helped me connect with the people from like all over the world. And through that, I also got to connect with very early on with the folks at Pieces. Like I did some content writing with them early on, like before joining. So I think that building in public and that connecting can help you connect with people far away from your regular zone, right? So in that way, I got to connect with these people, and when I was looking for a job, I approached them, and yeah, we go through the usual process, and so yeah, I'm working. But I think if you are trying to look for a remote job, I would say like try to build in public. That will help you like discover a lot of new people from all over the world, and those people, those networks can definitely help you get better and remote jobs like across different countries. And yeah.
Oh, awesome, man. I'll summarize this in a little bit more words. So, what Pratik is saying is go ahead, build in public. First step is always contribution. What you're building, show off your skills. It should not be just, hey, I build this loop or I build this button. It should be something meaningful that you're contributing so that it says, hey, this guy can do stuff. The step two is grab the opportunity. It's not going to be the opportunity that you're looking forward, but it might turn up into that opportunity. How Ritvik started was just writing an article. And if you give this job to anybody, he'll say, no, I don't want to write the articles. I want to do a developer job. But no, the remote work works like always testing the person first. So Pieces tested Ritvik out with just writing an article. He grabbed that opportunity, showcased his skill, built better connection and network, harden it out. And then, hey, right now he's working remotely. So this is the path. Showcase your skills, grab the first opportunity. It might not be the first one that you like, but it might eventually end up there. I guess, Ritvik, I did a decent job in summarizing it.
Yeah, totally. You did great. Yeah.
Yeah, and
All
Hitesh,
right.
as like we kind of come to a closure, I did share one link for everyone in the private chat, so if you could share that as well. So that kind of is a resource for the life context around how do you actually use it, because the biggest question that people might have is that okay, like, it is a powerful feature, but what are some of the suggested prompts that can actually help you to implement it further? And I think like as we're kind of closing it, especially because Hitesh, like so many of your audience are students, pieces is a really good tool for students as well. So for example, if they attend one of your lectures and they don't understand a particular concept, so they could just ask pieces copilot, can you explain this concept to me in an easy to understand language? Or perhaps like they are solving an assignment given to you around TypeScript, and they would just want to, like, let's say, create even further problems. They could just ask the copilot that based on these assignment questions, can you just give me more questions and I can solve those. And so it's like a great way for anyone as a developer, as a student, to of course not only just add context to and be able to resolve bugs, but support your journey as a student, as a developer, by providing you that context. Because generally that people have this misconception about AI, that it will take over your job role, or it will like not it will stop your learning journey. But if you implement in the right way, right, if you add it not as the main source of learning, like you add it as your side buddy, then it can
It's an
really help you
assistant.
10x.
AI is
Exactly.
an assistant, a really nice assistant that you can use anywhere and everywhere.
Anywhere, everywhere. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to like add one point on top of that. Like especially for beginner developers, like sometimes it's hard for us to like describe to other people what the issue is we are having in the code or what we're trying to achieve. And I think in that cases, something like live contest can definitely help, because you don't need to explain to it like the whole thing, or like you can just ask the copilot like, hey, where did I go wrong in my flow recently? And it can tell you that, so that takes a bit of burden over like not knowing things, and that's okay, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. All right, so we'll sum it up. I'm pretty sure most of the people will be watching this live stream in the night time mostly. But yeah, again, go on to the product hunt, support them. And of course, when you are building something, reach me out. I would love to help you as well at that time. And try to be on the product hunt. Build something substantial, something meaningful that you can actually push it on the product hunt. I'll probably do a video on this. I think that's a great topic to be discussed
Yep.
in the video itself. All
Yeah.
right,
We
so that is
recently
it. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
So I just wanted to share, like, we did a Twitter space as well, and Hitesh, like, I'll share a link with you that kind of summarizes all the best practices when it comes to like launching anything on Product Hunt. So I'll share that with you separately. You can share it with the community, so that will be useful for anyone who is trying to launch their product on Product Hunt.
Sure, sure, man. That would be fantastic as well. I'll put that as a resource link in the video itself. I need to do a video on the product hunt on its own. So, all right, that is it. Quite a good conversation. A lot of tech stuff, a lot of non-tech stuff, a lot of remote job work, everything that people wanted to know. I hope we were able to give a justice to that. And definitely, we'll do more such streams where we can have more conversation and all these things. But I think that's the time to wrap up. So thank you so much for joining at this really, really odd time. The link is in the comment section as well as in the pinned comment. So go ahead, support them on the product hunt as well. The Shivai and Rutvik, I guess Shivai is available on the Twitter as well. Rutvik, are you on the Twitter as well? You are on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I do.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll link them up in the Twitter spaces as well. So go ahead, follow them up, follow everyone, and learn from wherever you can. That is it. Thank you so much for joining at this odd hours, and bye bye everyone. Keep on writing amazing code and build some fantastic stuff.
Thank you so much.